And there's another little one in truth, on truth. From this little book, which is also on sale from the table there, from Secret Rooms. And money from the sales of that go to Women's Aid in Devon, which supports victims of family violence. There's a bit of it about. And I think this is one I have memorised actually. We'll have a go anyway. It's called Say. And it's also about truth. Say there were no such thing as truth, but only your word versus mine. Say crowing victors were correct and victims wrong because they whine. Say there were no such thing as truth, just rebels and the party line. You'd lick your story into shape till I believed it with my eyes. Your telling it would make it so. You'd gag the baby when it cries. You'd lick your story into shape. And there'd be no such thing as lies. And here's a poem that I didn't write, I found it. I found it in my job, from which I'm now very thankfully retired, at Exeter University Library. I found it in the catalogue, and it's like all catalogues these days, it's not a set of cards, it's a database on a computer, and you can type in different things and find what you want. And I typed in the words love in the title catalogue, in the title field, and it came up with this, and I didn't have to alter any of it. It's just a list of titles beginning with the word love in. Love in a blue time, love in a chest, love in a clinic, love in a cold climate, love in a forest, love in a mist, love in a riddle, love in a sack, love in a vale, love in a village, love in a wood, love in action, love in all shapes, love in America, love in any language, love in black, love in excess, love in exile, love in 5 temperaments, love in humble life, love in infant monkeys, love in its ecstasy, love in London, love in several masks, love in the afternoon, love in the dark, love in the early Spanish theatre, love in the kingdom of oil, love in the New Testament, love in the time of cholera, love in the time of Victoria, love in vain. You can't really add to that. I call myself a poet, so I will add to it. Here's another one. And I better do one from Forgeries, and I'll do one from Forgeries. I think I'd better say, actually, that I enjoy life. It's worth living. I thought I'd better say that because my poems don't. And this one is no exception. It's called History Is. It's on page 12. History is. History is a trowel and tape measure job. A stratigraphic straitjacket. History is a wind sighing in the oaks, elms and alders like a premonition. History is a smell of books with brittle spines, pages that crumble to dusk if you open them, and leather bindings that harbour a microscopic fungus that gives off hallucinogenic spores. History is dead cities hemmed in hidden by hills from whose rounded summits belvederes jut like lone teeth. History is an eye test. You go back for the specs and put them on, and God, the sky is a real outdorfer. Clouds piled white, dove grey, rose, shafts of light hinting at a buried sun. The whole paranormal, paranoiac panorama so loaded with detail that in 10 seconds you live through a lifetime of burning nostalgia for the future. It's familiar, astigmatic blur. History is a swarm of sunlit mosquitoes weaving wobbly narrative patterns over the surface of the dark brown unknowable. History is a fascist state ruled by an amnesiac. History is cliché, like a needle stuck in a groove. Flood prevention, airport lounge, Muzak, Prozac, Holy Communion. We comfort ourselves with the same old thoughts like soft toys, but history is the wicked uncle nobody mentions. History is forgotten families, malnourished and friendless, languishing in debtors' prisons. History is teaching a child to see sense by beating him senseless. History is sending in your bombers and troops to teach the enemy a high moral lesson he will never forget, but better be sure he doesn't recover his clout. Your lesson translates as the calculated vengeance of control in any other language. History is the everlasting scream of living infidel flesh roasting in the name of sweet, reasonable Jesus. History is a needle stuck in a... We feel so ashamed of our ignorance, yet there are men with brains the size of the British Museum who don't even notice a neighbour's misery. History is... But what is the point of going on? I give all this up for a 10-second chat with a friendly woman like you who smells of strawberries. History is a game of ultimatum after ultimatum, each one more ultimate than the last. History is decline and fall, until there's nothing left to decline or fall, or until the referee blows the ultimate whistle. Meanwhile, history is a... Krishnamurti says there is no meanwhile, there is only now. But meanwhile, history is a needle stuck in up. 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 Meanwhile, history is a needle stuck in up.